Mario, Link, Pikachu, Samus, Olimar, Kirby. You probably at least know one of these characters. Some of these names are recognizable all across the globe with their games. Super Mario Bros. Was the landmark game of the Nintendo Entertainment System, or NES. It started a revolution for the games industry to have at-home entertainment systems. They also kept lugging around Mario to keep making more breakthroughs, like switching from 2D games to 3D. Now that is what I like to call amazing graphics. It looks pretty bad now compared to games that have been released this year, but back then, this was revolutionary. Pokemon was the first massively popular handheld game after Tetris. Right now, Pokemon is the highest grossing media franchise. It makes billions of dollars each and every year with video games, TV shows, card games, toys, and movies. They even have 2 fucking jets. I don't know why they have jets. I don't know how they got on jets. But damn it, I want to ride the Pokemon plane. The Legend of Zelda defined an open-world game and non-linear gameplay where you can make any choice and explore to your heart's content. The more recent games of the series, The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom and The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, made crazy money. Tears of the Kingdom sold 10 million copies in 3 days. 10 million times like $70 is... hold on, I got this. Oh, yeah, I got it. It's a lot of money. Breath of the Wild sold over 34 million copies. Again, a lot of fucking money. You all knew what was coming up next. One thing that all of these intellectual properties have in common is that the owner of them is none other than Nintendo. Ah, yes, Nintendo. One of the AAA video game companies that isn't complete garbage. Ubisoft and EA should go bankrupt. Why? We were all thinking it. These companies are destroying the industry.
You need to leave.
Jesus, okay, I'm getting sidetracked. Nintendo. There's so much you can say about Nintendo that makes a lot of people happy. For this video, I kind of want to tell a story of where some of these series began and where they are today, and what better place to start than Mario. Who thought an Italian plumber made by a Japanese man would become an iconic video game character? The year is 1981. Arcade games are what all the cool kids are talking about.
Hey yo Jimmy, I bet 3 game tokens you can't beat me at Pong.
You're on, dude.
Wow.
So in 1981, the Donkey Kong arcade game was released, and with it a new character named Mario. The game had the player as Mario running up platforms and climbing ladders while dodging barrels, to eventually reach the top of the structure and save whoever this lady is. That's Pauline, by the way. This arcade game was the most complex game at its release, using graphics to actually make the characters have, well, character. Have cutscenes to tell a story and multiple levels with unique stages. It was a huge success for Nintendo, which started them off to actually create video games. Nintendo was not a video game company, but a playing card company, specifically handmade Hanafuna playing cards. Then they created toys and eventually video games. They released games before Donkey Kong, but this game is what changed everything for the company. Then Nintendo created another game called Mario Bros. For arcades, which included Mario once more, but now his iconic brother, Luigi. In this arcade game, the players were tasked to clear the sewers from odd creatures that were showing up in them and causing trouble. The most iconic from the enemies were the Shell Creepers, or Koopa Troopas. Yeah, the name change was definitely needed. This game received pretty good reception, but it didn't do what Donkey Kong did, and it most definitely didn't accomplish what the successor did either. Meet Takashi Tezuka, Shigeru Miyamoto, and Koji Kondo. Takashi Tezuka is a game designer, and he has probably worked on at least one of the Nintendo games you have played. He was a part of basically every Mario game, Pikmin game, and Animal Crossing game. Shigeru Miyamoto, the GOAT, he is the creator of a bunch of these franchises like Mario, Zelda, Donkey Kong, Star Fox, and Pikmin. Lastly, the man, the myth, the legend, Koji Kondo. What did he do? He is the music producer for so many games with iconic tracks that you most definitely at least heard once. Super Mario Bros? Yeah, that was him. The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time? Also him. You know what? I am not even going to show you what game this is from. This was made by Koji Kondo. Okay, I will show it to you. This is from Yoshi's Island. These three were super close friends, and they all showed amazing passion for their games. As said before, these three were coming up with ideas to create a new Mario game, after the Mario Bros. Arcade game. This iconic trio sat in a room and said something on the lines of this. This skit is all made up. So guys, we need to make another game from my iconic character Mario, but I don't know what we can do. Well, tell me about him. Well, he is an Italian plumber, he wears red, and he saves people from giant apes. Fuck, this is gonna take a while. So Mario, an Italian plumber, born in the Mushroom Kingdom, will save the princess called Peach, who has been captured by a big turtle dragon thing named Bowser. And in order to do that, he will go through platforming stages where he will walk, run, and jump through while stomping on enemies' heads to murder them in cold blood. This shit is so gonna flop. But to the surprise of all three of them and the team of developers helping them, it didn't flop. And this is where Mario started his journey of being one of Nintendo's most recognizable characters. So how is the Italian plumber doing? What kind of games is he a part of? Holy shit, that's a lot of franchises, fuck. Okay, let's just start off with what we know. Mario platforming. We have two types of current Mario platforming games. 2D side-scrollers and 3D open worlds. The 2D side-scroller genre has stuck with Mario through basically all the consoles. Each new rendition always did well, with some even going above and beyond, like Super Mario World, Super Mario Bros. 3, New Super Mario Bros., and the most recent rendition, Super Mario Bros. Wonder. Nintendo always continues to surprise me with their amazing ideas for these games, and the ability to create a whole new feel for every game. It did start to feel like the formula was getting stale after New Super Mario Bros. Until Super Mario Bros. Wonder. All these games in between didn't change the formula as much as New Super Mario Bros. Wii had the perfect formula for a while. None of these games are necessarily bad in any way. They still have some uniqueness in gameplay, power-ups, and levels, but the many other aspects of how the game felt was still the same that didn't attract new people or fans of the series. Also, the Wii U kinda just sold really bad and nobody liked it. Now, I don't want to stop talking about 2D platformers just yet, because there is an amazing spin-off game that was probably one of the best ideas Nintendo ever had. Alright guys, quiet down. We gotta make a new 2D Mario game platformer, so let's get some ideas out on this board. Man, I really don't want to keep working on these games. Why don't we just let people make the levels for us? Hey you, what did you just say? Why don't we make the people make the levels? Meet Super Mario Maker and Super Mario Maker 2, the magnus opus of the 2D Mario platformers. These games gave the players the ability to make Mario levels from the current 2D Mario platforms, but also any past Mario 2D game as well. After creating it, you can publish it to the game and share your creations with the world. But what fun is it to just create your own levels and play it? So the main feature is to play any Mario level from any creator. We have some fun Mario Maker levels called... What the fuck is this shit? Yeah, the game has got some slop, because if you give the ability for anyone to make a Mario level, there are people that can't make anything decent from their hands. But that is okay, because behind all that slop is some fantastic levels from a lot of fantastic people. One problem that is apparent in the game is the online portion. Playing other people's levels isn't hard, but if you have multiple people playing on one map in a game mode where you race to get to the finish line, the servers blow up. Connectivity issues connecting to the game, connectivity issues while playing the game. There's just so much that can go wrong with the connection. Anyways, yes, online might be pretty shoddy at times, but overall, the 2D Mario platforming series are living in the golden ages. The most recent title, Super Mario Bros. Wonder, is an amazingly charming game, and Super Mario Maker 2 helps bring the community close and makes this genre infinitely replayable. But what is better than 2D? In the early 90s, there were a lot of talk about creating 3D video games. 2D was always the major dominant, but many developers and gamers wanted to move on to do something even greater. There is just one small, tiny little problem. 3D graphics were really hard to run. They were also hard to develop. Oh, and the hardware that could run 3D graphics were majorly expensive. Okay, it wasn't a small problem. Nintendo's first glimpse into trying to create 3D graphics was in Star Fox in 1993 on the Super Nintendo Entertainment System. It included a Super FX chip specifically to play the game, so the console could have enough processing power to generate the 3D objects. Remember this guy? Yeah, this is Shigeru Miyamoto. After seeing this, Miyamoto wanted to create a Mario game on the SNES using the Super FX chip. This plan didn't fall through, but after a few years, the Nintendo 64 will be released in 1996 to Japan and North America. The Nintendo 64 also came with a very special game, Super Mario 64. I am probably going to say this a lot, but Nintendo has yet again revolutionized gaming. Nintendo saw that 3D platforming and movement was really hard to play for one particular reason: the camera. The camera is basically the perspective the player has in the world, and if the camera isn't easy control or isn't showing perspective properly, it will be very hard to make a simple jump to another platform. It also needs to work in different scenarios where the player might be in tighter spaces, larger spaces, or moving platforms. One of the big reasons why the game is still considered one of the most influential games of all time is because of the dynamic camera system it had. It made platforming so much easier to manage and basically helped 3D games become more appealing. Many games would end up getting inspiration from this title. Let me just get the list of all the other reasons why it was influential. The game is known for its non-linear open freedom, which has been acclaimed by video game developers. Based level design inspired game designers such as GoldenEye. Dan Houser, a prominent figure in the development of Grand Theft Auto series, stated anyone co-founder of ID Software said the game defined 3D. Michael John, designer and producer on Spyro the Dragon, cited Super Mario 64 introduced a free-floating camera that can be controlled independently of the character. To increase freedom, 64 design created a dynamic 64's use of the analog camera that turns and accelerates according to the character's actions. Okay, Jesus, I get it, it was revolutionary. This was the start for Mario and the 3D platformers. With the success of this game, Nintendo would be sure to follow up with more. Super Mario Sunshine, Super Mario Galaxy 2, and Super Mario Odyssey. If you love 3D platformers, you should play all of the Mario ones. All of them have aged amazingly, and the only thing that isn't the best is the graphics, but if you get past that, well, get ready to have a lot of fun. I am in love with these games. The only game I found that matched the charm of these Mario games was A Hat in Time. If you haven't played that indie game, go play it, it's really good. Alright, we talked about how Mario became an icon for Nintendo, so since he is so big, he has a lot of games that deal with it. I'm talking about Mario Kart, Mario Party, Mario Sports Games, Paper Mario, Mario and Luigi RPG, Yoshi's Story, Luigi's Mansion, Mario and Rabbids Kingdom Battle. Wait, what? These games need more recognition, by the way. They're pretty good. I am just glazing Nintendo like crazy right now, but what can I say? They make some pretty good games. Nintendo is amazing, but sometimes they aren't. Nintendo was seen as an innovator for the gaming industry, a real successful launch of the NES, one of the first at-home entertainment systems, a successful launch of the Nintendo 64 with games that revolutionized 3D games. The GameCube, well, that didn't go too well. Then they had the Wii, and like, come on, who didn't have a Wii, like, really? But it had motion controls that were pretty fun. The Wii U, yeah, that didn't go too well either. The Switch, which was one of the first consoles to be a handheld and a regular console you can play on the TV, and now the Switch 2. What is so special about the Switch 2? It is the Switch, but better. How better? Overall, compared to other consoles, not that good. For some reason, this has always been a running trend through Nintendo in their most recent consoles. Wii is when it began, where it was powerful, but compared to a PS3 and an Xbox 360, it was a baby. It ran in 480p, with most games being 30 FPS. If you don't know how bad that is, here is 480p and 30 FPS of me playing League of Legends. And compared to PS3 with 720p 30 FPS, looks much better. But one thing that I haven't included yet is what kind of games these consoles run. This is a Wii game. This is a PS3 game. Yeah, it clearly was behind in hardware. But in my opinion, the Wii was still an exceptional console. The motion controls were new and innovative, and the games are one of a kind, as mostly all of them were created by Nintendo, with the Wii's hardware and capabilities in mind. You couldn't play games like the ones on the PS3, but you for sure still can't play Wii games on the PS3. It just didn't have the same technology like the Wii had. Let's skip the Wii U, because nobody wants to talk about that in the first place. Let's just talk about the Switch. Again, much lower graphical capabilities compared to the PS4, even with it being 4 years older than it, and came out at the same price as the Switch. Now, the Switch was still innovative, and again, the PS4 can't run all the Switch games because of the other technological capabilities of the Switch. The only problem is that it is the same price for more outdated hardware, but they make up for it with the innovative design. The Switch has gotten me more skeptical of the future of Nintendo though. I said that not all games can run on PS4, but some major titles of the Switch certainly can. Some of the games weren't reliant on all the Switch's features, like Super Mario Odyssey, Mario Kart, Smash, and a bunch of other Nintendo titles. Then the Switch 2 came out, and here is where I drew the line for Nintendo. Again, outdated hardware compared to consoles older than it, and still costing the same amount. But what about the inflation and the tariffs and... No, that's not how it works. It is still worse hardware for more money. You can't go around that. But what about the argument of it being innovative? Well, sure, it is still a console that is a handheld and a home console, but I would not be surprised if some of these games don't need the motion controls of the system. Mario Kart, the game series released with it, doesn't need it, and many consoles have motion sensors as well now. I want to ask you a question. What is the main reason to buy a PC or a PS5 or an Xbox? It is to play games. What's the difference between Nintendo consoles? It is to play Nintendo games. Basically, all of Nintendo's games are only meant for their consoles. Everything is a console exclusive for Nintendo, unless you pirate the games, which I for sure don't pirate Pokemon games to play some fun ROM hacks. No, that's illegal. Don't do that. But maybe you can. But my point is, it really feels like if Nintendo didn't have their games exclusive to their consoles in the current age, the consoles would not sell. What is the point of buying outdated hardware for a bigger price to play the same games you can do on a PS5 if they could have rights to the Nintendo games? I still understand that some Nintendo titles are created for these consoles in mind and have intended mechanics for them. But Mario Kart, Smash, Mario Party, Pokemon, and a lot of other franchises don't need this console. So what is the plan? Keep consoles exclusive forever so people have to buy your console, making overall less sales for your games because not everyone can get another $500 out of thin air? Or do you make some of these series allowed on other hardware which could drop the sales for the consoles but increase the sales for the games? It's a sticky situation. As a consumer, I would love to have the opportunity to play some of these games on hardware I already own. $500 is a lot of money. I don't even know if I'm gonna buy a Switch 2. This whole problem is not even the only issue I have. When you own anything like a car or a PC or a lamp, you can do whatever the hell you want with it. But the Switch 2 is different. In a good way? No, in a bad way. You still technically own the console, but the software and the ability to use it online is governed by Nintendo. So, if Nintendo thinks you breached their agreements of owning the product, they can remotely disable your console, making you basically lose your console forever, and that $500 is $0 because you can't do anything on it anymore. Consoles do still have end user licenses similar to this for trying to modify the console in any way, but enforcing it was never really a thing. They couldn't remotely shut down the system. Nintendo throughout the years have shown how anti-consumer they really are. I don't really know how I can segue into this next part, but fuck it, let's just talk about Super Smash Bros. So, Super Smash Bros. It is a platform fighting game that has crossover characters from many Nintendo franchises. It also included franchises outside of Nintendo as well, like Metal Gear Solid, Street Fighter, and Minecraft. Super Smash Bros. Started as a passion project from Masahiro Sakurai, the developer of Kirby Superstar and creator of Kirby. Sakurai created Super Smash Bros. Because he felt like fighting games were way too complicated and over-relied on combos rather than pure player strategy and skill. The game at first was not going to include crossover characters, but the original characters of the game. The problem with this is that none of these characters were going to be recognizable and maybe not attract attention for it, so Sakurai asked the GOAT Miyamoto if he can use Nintendo characters for the game. At first, Miyamoto didn't like it, but when Sakurai and Iwata, his partner in crime, presented a demo featuring Mario, Fox, Samus, and Donkey Kong fighting, Miyamoto gave the thumbs up and Super Smash Bros. Was created. The franchise would continue to make Super Smash Bros. Melee, Super Smash Bros. Brawl, Super Smash Bros. For the Wii U and 3DS, and now our most current game, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Since this is a fighting game, a major esports bubble was created. Different communities would play different games, and some would still continue to be a heavy viewing port for the Smash community. Ultimate is the most recent release, and since it has competitions all across the world for some pretty hefty money, but one community that still continues to live on is the Melee community. It is still one of the biggest Smash Bros. Communities after Ultimate, so Nintendo runs all these events and helps esports community to help them grow, right? Right? No. They don't associate with us Smashers, and even multiple instances gave out cease and desist as well. On November 29th, 2022, less than 2 weeks before 2022 Smash World Championships, the organizer SWT made an announcement that they had to cancel both the 2022 championships and the 2023 Smash World Tour. Nintendo contacted them and gave them a cease and desist. This isn't the only time they shut down Smash tournaments, but this was a humongous event for this community. There's Nintendo's anti-consumer showing up once more. I don't really know what Nintendo wants from the Smash scene anymore. At first, it was just because the games weren't meant to be competitive and just for fun. Now I think it's because Nintendo wants to control the esports scene like how the other esports tournaments work, but they for some reason don't want to work with the SWT, like the biggest Smash competition running tournaments. Before we move on, I want to talk about again how Nintendo's online service is literally dog shit. I don't know why it is always a problem with every single Nintendo game, but they literally can't figure out how to make their online portions of their game to be smooth. I know games and communities who make better online experiences without being a multi-million-dollar company. Like, why is this an issue? It isn't difficult to do, it isn't that much more expensive, and if the internet services are better, maybe people would be more inclined to play Nintendo games online. Nintendo isn't really the leading front for online games anyways, but neglecting it for so many years have got me so infuriated. Now, Nintendo is a massive corporation, and Mario is definitely one of the reasons why it became so big, but compared to a franchise where you battle Pokemon monsters to be the very best, well, it made Nintendo a lot of money. Do I even need to explain why Pokemon was such a successful series? Probably not, but fuck it. This video is already really long, so let's do it. If you have been watching up until now, you should really think about subscribing though. The very first Pokemon games were released on the Game Boy in 1996. The Game Boy was already seen as a major success. It was a handheld console that did something special. Before the Game Boy, most handheld consoles can only play 1 or 2 games as their games were stored on the hardware itself. The Game Boy had cartridges so they can play any Game Boy game, making the handheld have more playability and better investment. This made the Game Boy a worldwide success and continued to be successful as the favorite toy of many kids. The games on the Game Boy were really good too, and Pokemon Red, Pokemon Blue, and Pokemon Yellow were released. Boom, instant popularity. These games were amazingly received for creativity and community. Every single original 151 Pokemon had amazing designs, and many kids loved a simple story of a kid just trying to become the best Pokemon trainer on the planet. When you create such lovable monsters, kids would have some favorites like any of the starters: Pikachu, Arcanine, Alakazam, Gengar, and many other Pokemon. It also brought many kids together to become best friends, as the game required you to trade with others in order to collect all the Pokemon in the game. It was a world of discovery. Nintendo saw an opportunity here. Every single Pokemon individually was special to a lot of kids, and what better way to make more money than to give them more Pokemon media? Nintendo then went on to create an animated series, trading card games, and toys. This heavily boosted the popularity of Pokemon, as there were more ways to not only connect with other kids, but to also express yourself of your favorite Pokemon. I still have my old Pokemon card collection, and I still remember trading my cards for others during recess, even though it was illegal on the streets of school.
Hey Tommy, you got that Charizard EX?
Yeah. Did you bring stuff?
Yeah, I got the one Charmander, one Squirtle, and one Bulbasaur, all hollow. At least one Swirl, okay?
Hey, what are you kids doing? Shit, scatter! Game Freak, the company that makes these games, have continued to create more regions, more Pokemon, and a lot more polish, until recently. Scarlet and Violet may have had some major issues when it launched. The frame rate was definitely a big one, but many games would also crash, need a restart because of memory leaks, and be very buggy. Games take a lot of time to create, and I think Nintendo is kind of forcing Game Freak to meet a quota for the games. Creating a game so big in only 3 years is for sure not gonna be polished. I mean, just think about Cyberpunk. It took Red Project 7 years to develop it, and it still was a hot mess at launch. Not to mention all the time developers were probably crunching to get the game out on time. Crunching means to spend long hours developing the game to hit a quota, even if it's not great for your mental or physical health. Even though Cyberpunk has way more features than Scarlet and Violet still has a lot of features. New characters, new Pokemon, terrestrialization, Terra types, multiple story paths, Paradox Pokemon, open world, multiplayer, and character customization. Not to mention all the other old stuff they need to reprogram into the game. You can see how big the list gets, and 3 years is too small of a time frame for such a big scope. Scope creep happens to many games, and the big problem with it is deadlines. Get a game out before a certain time frame. This could make workers more productive and create paths towards success, but in my opinion, doesn't work for video games. I feel like most developers are also tired of the crunching. Rush coding is never good coding. It needs constant testing, and that is where the time loss goes. As long as it works for now, it should be good, but later on, something is gonna break, and I know it. As a game developer myself, there are so many things that can go wrong when you create new features. You need to make sure they don't clash with other features, and they also need to not clash for future features. Refactoring code will happen time and time again, as the first attempt at creating something is never the final. This isn't really a Nintendo problem, it is a AAA games problem. Some of these companies have started to understand the struggle of creating a video game. If you want to make a bestseller, you can't rush development, but other companies see an opportunity to release an unfinished game and then tell the fan base that they will fix it later. Alright, I'm going to stop here because I know I will not stop talking about how much I hate companies destroying things, but Nintendo makes billions of dollars off of Pokemon, and with such a big franchise, Nintendo still wants to protect it. Welcome to Palworld! You guys are in for a treat. So, Palworld is like an open world survival game that is kind of similar to Ark, where you can tame other monsters to help you fight other monsters or to help you around the base. The pals look kind of similar. Yeah, but it gets even better. In order to get these pals, you need to throw a pal sphere at it, hopefully catching it. This kind of rings a bell a little bit. Oh, also you can catch humans and give pals guns. Where the hell did that come from? Anyways, yes, there are some similarities to Pokemon. Some of the pals also look kind of similar to Pokemon as well, but Game development is very inspiration based. When Mario 64 was released, many other developers took the formula and slapped on their own character. The one problem with Palworld though is the similarity to Pokemon, but this still holds no ground. Is that Lucario? No, it might look like one, but it isn't. Nintendo can't really sue Palworld for copyright infringement. Copyright infringement is the unauthorized use of someone's work. They can't prove Palworld used Nintendo's creatures to make their pals or that they are Pokemon themselves, so what did Nintendo sue Palworld for? Nintendo sued Palworld for patent infringement. I hope you know about this, but Nintendo is doing something really dumb and pro-corporation. They created a patent for a gameplay mechanic. Specifically, the game mechanic where a player can throw an object to capture a creature, and they can deploy that creature in combat. Basically, Nintendo is the only company who can create games where you can capture a creature by throwing an object at it, and then deploy them in combat later on. If Nintendo wins this lawsuit, this could be a major issue in the gaming industry. What is stopping companies from creating patents for their game mechanics like what Nintendo's doing? This will lock down games, period. Nintendo can be the only ones who can create Pokemon-esque games. Epic Games can be the only one who can make a battle royale. You can see how pro-corporation this is as well. If the competition can never compete, then who has all the market share? Nintendo is amazing, but why? Why are they not sometimes? Corporate greed has stained the gaming industry, and I wish we can go back to when it wasn't that big of a deal than it is now. The video game industry is bigger than film, TV, and music combined. No wonder corporation wants a piece of the pie. That is why I recommend that you guys start playing more indie games. There are a lot of cool games out there that are not only cheaper, but more fun, polished, and interesting than any slop corporation release every year. Thank you so much for watching this video. Video games are such a big part of my life, and I love talking about the games industry. New games, bad games, good games, corporations. Nintendo isn't the only company that exists in this industry, so expect us to talk about a lot more games. Take care now.
Fireball. Freeze. Fuck. Worm.
Magic
Oh.
missile!
Worm.
Worm.
Fireball.